This video is an ISO noise comparison between the Canon EOS M6 Mark II and the Sony ZV-E10 when the footage itself is recorded using the HDMI output, not in camera. Because one of the issues I have here is, especially when I'm using a lens that's like f4, or slower, or at an f-stop that's f4 or slower in a rather dimly lit scenario, and I crank up the ISO to about 1600 and beyond, I don't like the image that's coming out of it. There's a lot of artifacting and whatnot, especially in the shadow areas. It tends to, although there's more detail, it tends to blur and muddy up the details. Interestingly, this video right now, up until this point, since you've been watching, has been recording at ISO 3200 on the Sony ZV-E10 via the HDMI. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to do a comparison in what this looks like on the Sony when it's recorded in camera versus through the HDMI output. So, but for now, I just want to showcase what this looks like. ISO 3200, shutter 1/30, and as I increase the ISO, I'll also double the shutter speed. So this is ISO 3200. Let's go ahead and go to 6400. White balance is also on auto, and I'll be doing the same thing on the Canon. So this is the look, ISO 6400, shutter 1/60. Let's bump it up one more time. Essentially, I'm going to be doing this on 4 different ISO settings. So ISO setting 3200 was number 1. This is 6400, and now we're going to go to 12,800. Shutter is going to be bumped to 1/120, 1/125. This is what everything looks like. I can still see the little eye tracking on the Sony. It seems to be working just fine. The way that I'm lit, I'm literally lit by a monitor, and I've got a little home decor light in the back, lighting up my background. Again, pay attention to the noise in the shadows and the noise on my face. And let's bump it up one last time to 25,600. And we're not going to go any higher than this because this is the limit of the Canon. And now let's bump up the shutter speed to 1/250. And this is basically the appropriate exposure. So we started at 1/30, then 60, then 125, and then now 1/250. This is what the image looks like. The autofocus at this level seems to be skipping between the eye and the head, sticking mostly to the head in terms of the eye tracking. So, and also anybody, if you ever have any issues with the autofocus on the Sony, just remember you need to dial in your autofocus settings. Part of being able to dial that in is to disable product showcase. So what product showcase is where you put an object in front of the thing, and interestingly, it still caught it. It's not supposed to catch it. If there was a product in front, like for the most part, it's supposed to stay on my face. It's not supposed to do that. Maybe it's because of the high ISO. But anyway, so what we're gonna do now is I'm actually gonna switch to. So now we are on the Canon, shutter 1/30, ISO 3200, recording via HDMI to the computer. Via OBS. So we're just gonna go ahead and bump the shutter speed from 3200 to 6400, and then we're gonna bump that shutter speed up to 1/60. And here we are. Same basic exposure. Pay attention to the shadows on the face as well as the shadow on the frame. Let's go ahead and bump this to 12,800 and bump this up to 1/125. Here we go. So this is 12,800, shutter 1/125. This is the image, this is what it looks like. And between all 3, I'm also going to be comparing it with noise reduction. How does it compare with the 2 images? Don't worry about the flutter in the background. That's basically the light. It's not rated for video, and as a result, it's gonna flicker in the background as the shutter speed goes higher. Last bit, we're going to 25,600. Shutter is 1/250. Here we go. Here we go. This is the final image. There's a lot of noise. I can see it's going to be in the shadows, it's going to be in the frame. Also, you're going to see a bunch of noise even in the areas that are not like properly lit, and that's cool. So just wanted to see what the image looks like in comparison. Again, this is going to be what it's like with noise reduction applied. What do you guys think? How's the image in comparison between the two cameras in regards to, one, the noise level, two, the clarity of the image? The autofocus is like, it seems to still like, I mean, I guess it's kind of slow, but it's sticky. At this high ISO, the Sony had seemed to be struggling. But the Canon autofocus just it takes its time. It does a little bit more dramatic, where it's not gonna be like boom, right? Like I can move my head and it's not gonna move that fast. It'll move fast in photo mode, but for whatever reason in video mode it takes its time. I don't know why it does that. I mean, I guess it's an aesthetic. I like it when it's recording in video, but for like live streaming, if I want to be crazy and move my head around, right, I would like for it to be a little bit more sticky, like, you know, people like to do this, and you know, it follows me. But it's one of those things where it'd be interesting to see if it was a little bit more a little bit faster. Maybe other models of Canon cameras do it, but I don't know. So this is it. This is the whole test. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if there's anything else, any other comparisons you would like me to try out, I'd be more than happy to oblige. This is fun. I also learned a little bit more about the gear that I have. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you soon.